If you're watching this right now, I'm willing to bet you have a familiar blue and yellow can sitting on a dusty shelf in your garage, or perhaps tucked away in the back of the cabinet under your kitchen sink. Most folks only reach for it once a year when a door hinge starts squeaking loud enough to wake the baby, or when a padlock freezes up in the bitter cold of winter. But what if I told you that that single, inexpensive can holds the secret to Grandpa's 42 clever hacks that will absolutely blow your mind and make your daily life significantly easier? Just the other morning, I was standing out on my front porch. The sun was barely coming up over the tree line. There was a heavy frost on the ground, and I was holding a single rusted pair of old garden shears in one hand and a stack of utility bills in the other. Those bills just seem to keep getting higher every single month, do they not? It feels like the cost of simply maintaining a basic home is climbing completely out of reach for everyday folks. Later that same morning, I took a trip down to our local hardware store in town to pick up some chicken feed. While I was standing in line at the register, I watched a young homeowner, he could not have been much older than 30 years old, loading up his checkout cart. I stood there and watched him scan specialized bug repellents, heavy-duty rust removers, expensive chemical adhesive cleaners, fancy water repellent sprays for his boots, and a dozen other specialty bottles. I watched him spend well over $80 on a bunch of plastic spray bottles that he will empty in a few weeks and have to buy all over again next month. It honestly broke my heart. I wanted to tap him on the shoulder and tell him he was falling right into the trap. You see, the modern corporate world wants you trapped in that exact cycle. They design these hyper-specialized, overpriced products for one reason only, to keep you entirely dependent on their monthly chemical refills. They want you tied to a system where you are forced to reach for your wallet every single time you see a spider in the shed, a spot of rust on a bicycle chain, or a smudge of tree sap on your patio furniture. They thrive on your reliance. But we do not operate that way around here. We do not waste our hard-earned money, and we absolutely reject the idea of relying on big companies to solve the everyday problems on our homesteads. We rely on the honest truth, hard work, and the precious wisdom passed down from the men and women who built this country with their own two calloused hands. My grandpa was a man of the soil. He did not have a massive, expensive chemical cabinet. He did not have a monthly subscription for pest control or lawn care. He had a few simple, highly affordable tools, and he knew exactly how to stretch their usefulness to the absolute limit. Today, I'm going to share that exact traditional wisdom with you. I'm going to walk you step by step through 42 practical, frugal ways to use that single can to replace dozens of expensive products in your home, your garden, and your life. But before we get into that list, we need to sit down and talk about the honest truth regarding what is actually inside that can. I do not believe in magic solutions, and I will never sit here and sell you a false promise. That blue and yellow can stands for water displacement, 40th formula. It is not some miracle potion that fixes everything. It is a very specific, scientifically formulated blend of organic solvents and light petroleum oils. Understanding how it actually works is the only way to use it correctly and safely. Let us look at the science of it for a moment, because Grandpa always taught me to understand my tools. The organic solvents inside the can are designed to break down non-polar molecular bonds. Now, in plain English, that simply means it melts away the kinds of stubborn messes that regular soap and water cannot even touch. I'm talking about sticky tree sap, hardened candle wax, tar from the road, and heavy caked-on grease. The solvent does the hard work of breaking the mess apart at a chemical level. Then, once that solvent evaporates into the air, the light petroleum oil is left behind. That oil creates a temporary hydrophobic barrier. Hydrophobic is just a scientific word that means it is terrified of water. It actively repels and pushes moisture away from the surface. That is exactly why it stops rust dead in its tracks on your old tools. However, here is the limitation. And I need you to hear this clearly, because I see folks getting this wrong all the time, wasting their time and ruining their equipment. This formula is a phenomenal cleaner, a rust dissolver, and a short-term moisture barrier. It is not a long-term mechanical lubricant. If you have heavy gears, tractor parts, or wheel bearings that carry a lot of weight and high friction, you need to use proper heavy-duty grease. This spray will clean those parts out beautifully, cutting through the old grime, but it will not keep them properly lubricated for the long haul. It is simply too thin for that. Around here, we always use the right tool for the job, and we never expect a product to do something it was simply not designed to do. We respect our tools, we respect the science, and we always tell the honest truth. Now, before we open that can and get to work on our first set of homestead hacks, it is time for our safety word. You know I never skip this, and I need you to pay close attention, because your safety and the safety of your family and your animals is my absolute top priority. We respect the tools we use, and part of that respect is understanding their dangers. First and foremost, the solvents inside this can are highly flammable. I cannot stress this enough. You must never spray this product near an open flame, near your water heaters, or anywhere close to a lit pilot light. If you are working in a closed shed or a tight garage, open a window and let the breeze come through. Let the fumes escape. Second, we must talk about human and pet safety. Some of the hacks we will discuss later involve using this solvent on stove burners, kitchen kettles, or baking trays. Listen to me very carefully. If you use it on anything that will ever come into contact with your food or your drinking water, you must thoroughly wash that item with hot, heavy soapy water afterward. You have to scrub away all the chemical residue completely. Finally, when it comes to our animals, we have to be exceptionally careful. When I teach you how to keep ants out of your dog's food bowl, you must only spray the outside base of the bowl. Never, under any circumstances, allow your dogs, your barn cats, or your livestock to ingest this residue. And please be mindful of where you spray in the garden to avoid contaminating the soil or harming our beneficial insects, especially our precious honeybees. All right, now that we understand the science and the safety, let us get our hands dirty. Let us start by talking about how to manage the pests around your property without signing up for an expensive monthly exterminator contract that drains your bank account. Every spring, the wasps start looking for a place to build their paper nests. They love the corners of our wooden sheds, the eaves of the barn, and around the window frames. It is a real hazard, especially if you have grandchildren running around the yard. Instead of buying a $10 can of highly toxic wasp spray that poisons the air and leaves dangerous chemicals where your family walks, simply take your can and spray a light, even coat, around those potential entry points and wooden corners. The science here is brilliantly simple. The oil creates a slick, petroleum-based surface that the wasps simply cannot grip. If they cannot stick their paper to the wood, they cannot build their nests. Plus, the strong scent of the solvent acts as a natural deterrent. Just reapply it every few weeks during the warmer months, and your shed will stay wasp-free, completely on your own terms. You can use that exact same frugal principle for spiders. My grandpa would always keep spiders away from the porch furniture by spraying a little bit around the baseboards and the bottom legs of the heavy wooden chairs. The spiders absolutely detest the smell, and their delicate legs cannot gain any traction on the oily barrier. You keep the porch clean, and you keep your money in your pocket. Now, what about the ants? There's nothing more frustrating than pouring out an expensive scoop of feed for your dog or barn cat, only to find it swarming with sugar ants an hour later. You cannot afford to waste good feed. To stop this, create a barrier. Take the food bowl, empty it out completely, and spray a light coat exclusively around the outside bottom edge. Remember our absolute safety rule. Keep it completely away from the inside where the food goes. The ants will march right up to that bowl, hit that slippery surface, and they will not be able to climb up the sides. It is a quick, highly effective, and non-toxic way to protect your pet's meals from the crawling swarms. We can also protect our wild birds while keeping the nuisance animals away. If you have a bird feeder hanging in the yard, you know that the squirrels will steal every last seed if you let them. They are relentless. To keep those squirrels at bay, simply spray a coat of the oil on the metal pole or the hanging chain holding the feeder. Make sure you do not get any near the bird seed itself. The squirrels will try to scramble up, but the metal will be far too slick. They will slide right back down to the dirt. You just need to reapply it after a heavy rain washes the oil away, and the birds can eat in peace. But what if the birds are the ones causing the problem? If you have birds perching on your car roof, your side mirrors, or the hood of your truck and leaving a terrible mess that ruins the paint, a light wipe of this formula on those spots will make the surface too slick for their little claws to balance. They will simply fly away to find a better, rougher branch. You can also spray it around the edges of your home's exterior vents. Birds love to build nests inside warm, drier vents, which is a massive fire hazard that blocks airflow. A slippery vent edge means they cannot gain a foothold to bring their twigs and straw inside. Moving out into the garden, we face a whole new set of challenges that usually prompt folks to buy expensive poisons. Slugs can absolutely decimate a row of potted hostas or young vegetable seedlings overnight. You wake up, and your hard work is chewed to pieces. Do not waste your money on bags of chemical slug pellets that could harm a curious dog. Take your can and spray a thin layer around the outside base and the outer edges of your planting pots. Slugs have incredibly soft, mucus-coated bodies. When they try to cross that hydrophobic oil barrier, they cannot tolerate it and they cannot climb. Your plants stay perfectly safe, and you have not poisoned the earth. You can do the exact same thing for frogs that insist on climbing your wooden garden fences. Just spray the top and sides so they cannot get a grip. It deters them without causing them any physical harm. And if you have gophers tearing up your garden beds from underneath, Grandpa always said to spray a little along the bottom edges of the garden stakes and the lower fencing. Gophers have very sensitive noses, and the strong solvent smell makes that specific area completely unappealing for them to dig their burrows. It is a peaceful deterrent that saves your crops. Let us move out of the garden now and step right into the tool shed. Around here, if you live a life of hard work, your tools are your livelihood, you respect them, Grandpa never threw away a trusty pair of garden shears just because the hinges got a little stiff or showed a speck of rust, and you certainly should not either. To keep your garden tools, like your pruners and hand shears, in top operating condition, apply a small amount directly onto the moving parts and the metal hinges. Let the solvent sit for a full minute to penetrate the deep-seated dirt, and then, and this is a very important step, wipe away all the excess fluid with a clean cotton rag. That leaves just enough of a thin oil layer to prevent rust and keep the metal moving smoothly without attracting more dust and grit from the soil. You can use that exact same frugal method to rescue a rusted bicycle chain. Instead of throwing it out and buying a new one, turn the bicycle upside down. Spray the chain evenly while slowly turning the pedals, give it a few minutes to let the solvent break down the oxidation, and then take a clean rag and wipe off the excess thoroughly. It repels the moisture from the morning dew and saves you from a trip to the repair shop. If you have metal fencing around your property, spray a light coat onto the joints and corners where moisture settles. That protective barrier will stop rust from forming during the rainy season, keeping your fences standing strong for years. And do not forget your garage doors. A quick spray on the hinges, the rollers, and the metal tracks every 6 months will reduce the friction, stop the annoying squeaking, and vastly extend the life of your expensive garage door hardware. Now, what about those expensive paintbrushes? We all forget to wash a brush from time to time, leaving the bristles stiff, hardened, and completely useless, caked with dried paint. Do not throw it in the trash. Spray a generous amount directly onto those hardened bristles. The organic solvents will slowly start to soften the dried paint, breaking down the acrylic or oil bonds. Work the bristles back and forth gently with your fingers, and then wash the brush thoroughly with warm, heavy, soapy water. Your brush is saved, and your money stays right in your pocket where it belongs. Let us look out at the driveway in your vehicles. Driveway and patio cracks are notorious for sprouting stubborn weeds that make the whole homestead look untidy. Instead of buying expensive chemical weed killers that run off into our groundwater and poison the soil, spray the oil directly into those crevices. The oil-based formula creates a harsh barrier that stops moisture from reaching the weed seeds, completely hindering their growth without covering your yard in commercial toxins. Over at the car, if you have a seatbelt that is loose and constantly getting stuck, making you fight it every time you drive to town, pull the belt out as far as it will go and spray a small amount down into the retraction mechanism. Test it a few times, pulling it gently, and that lubrication will loosen the jammed components so the belt retracts smoothly. You can also use it to melt away stubborn bug splatter from your car grill after a long drive down country roads. Just spray, let the solvent loosen the dried bugs for a few minutes, and wipe it clean with a soft sponge. If you notice moisture building up inside your car headlights, which dims your view of the road at night, spray a thin coat around the outer seams. That hydrophobic action forms a seal that blocks the rain out. And for those who ride, a light polish on a soft cloth will remove the road grime from your motorcycle helmet and leave a beautiful shine. Just be sure to keep it entirely away from the viewing visor. Speaking of gear, let us talk about the things we wear and carry out into the elements. Grandpa worked out in the fields in heavy leather boots, and he knew how to take care of them. To waterproof your shoes and keep the heavy, wet mud from clinging to the soles, clean the boots first. Then spray a thin, even layer over the entire exterior. The moisture will bead right off the leather, and the mud will not stick to the treads. You will not be dragging half the field into the mudroom. If you accidentally step in sticky road tar while walking down the highway, scrape off the excess with an old blunt spoon, spray the stain, and scrub it in small circles with an old toothbrush. The tar lifts right away without ruining the expensive shoe material. If you have a stiff, dried-out leather baseball glove sitting in the closet, rubbing a light coat of this oil into the leather with a soft cloth will restore its flexibility and suppleness perfectly. Just put a ball in the pocket, wrap it tight, and it will be as good as new. Heading to the beach or the lake, spray the metal legs of your folding chairs, let it dry for a minute, and the wet sand will simply refuse to stick to the metal, making packing up the truck incredibly easy and keeping the sand out of your vehicle. The same scientific principle works absolute miracles on stuck zippers on your heavy winter coats, your tents, or your canvas tool bags. A tiny spray directly on the zipper teeth dissolves the trapped grit and oxidation, and the zipper will glide effortlessly. No more tugging and tearing at the fabric. And if you have a young child or a grandchild who manages to get chewing gum stuck right in their hair, do not panic and do not reach for the scissors. Spray a little bit directly onto the gum. The solvent completely breaks down the stickiness of the gum in about 1 minute. Gently slide the gum out with a fine-tooth comb, and then, of course, wash the child's hair thoroughly with a good shampoo to remove the oil. It is completely painless and saves a lot of tears. Inside the house, this formula is an absolute powerhouse for tackling the toughest, stickiest chores that normal soap cannot handle. If you have young ones around, you probably have stubborn crayon marks on plastic toys. A little spray on a soft cloth will dissolve that wax immediately without harming the plastic surface underneath. If you are like me and you save your glass jars, You know how frustrating the sticky adhesive residue left from paper labels can be. The solvent breaks down that glue in seconds. Just spray, wipe, and wash the container with warm, soapy water afterward, so it is safe to reuse. You can apply a light mist to a cloth and wipe down dusty artificial plants in your living room. It lifts the thick dust and leaves a beautiful natural shine without soaking them. For heavy, thick window curtains that constantly get caught on the rod, a light spray along the top of the metal curtain rod will make them glide back and forth effortlessly, while also preventing rust in damp environments. If you have outdoor wooden or plastic furniture that has sticky tree sap dripped all over it, spray the sap, let the solvent loosen it for a minute, and wipe it away gently. You can then coat the metal parts of that patio furniture with a light layer to act as a water-resistant shield against the weather. In the bathroom, things can get messy. If you accidentally spill hair dye on the countertops, do not let it set and ruin the finish. Spray the stain, wait a minute, and the formula breaks down the dye so you can simply wipe it away with a sponge. If your showerhead nozzles are painfully clogged with white, chalky hard water deposits, lowering your water pressure to a trickle, spray the nozzles. Let it sit for 5 minutes to dissolve the calcium and minerals, and then scrub gently with an old toothbrush to restore a strong, even water flow. Finally, let us head into the kitchen, the absolute heart of the homestead. This is where you must remember our strict safety rules, but it is also where you can save the most elbow grease. You can use it to clean the absolute toughest, burnt-on food stuck to the bottom of your heavy cooking pots and baking trays. You can use it to dissolve the thick, baked-on grease that ruins your metal stove burners. The solvents penetrate that thick, black carbonized grime far better than any expensive perfumed kitchen surface cleaner. You can even use it to remove hard water mineral stains from inside your metal kettle, lift stubborn coffee and tea rings from the bottom of your favorite ceramic mugs, and wipe away waxy lipstick stains from your nice drinking glasses. But listen to me carefully. Once the solvent has lifted the mess, you must take heavy dish soap and very hot water and scrub that pot, that burner, and that glass until every single trace of the chemical is gone completely. You must rinse it until it is perfectly clean. It is a powerful tool to do the heavy lifting, but it is not meant to be a part of your family's dinner. Safety always comes first on a well-run homestead. Well, folks, we have covered a tremendous amount of ground today. We have walked together from the front porch to the garden, through the dusty tool shed, out to the driveway, and right into the heart of the kitchen, all with just one humble, inexpensive can. You now possess 42 distinct practical methods to bypass the expensive hardware store aisles. You have the knowledge to take back control of your own homestead maintenance, to stop relying on monthly corporate subscriptions, and to keep your hard-earned money right where it belongs. But as you know, I never let you leave these videos without a little bit of practical homework. Knowledge is absolutely useless if you just let it sit in your head and gather dust like an old book. True wisdom comes from getting your hands dirty and doing the actual work. So here is your specific task for this week. I want you to walk out to your shed, your garage, or down into your basement. I want you to find just one thing that you have been neglecting because you thought it was ruined. Find one heavily rusted garden trowel, one stiff pair of leather work boots, or one squeaky door hinge that has been driving your family crazy for months. Take a standard $5 can. Apply a light coat just like we discussed today. Let it sit there for exactly 5 minutes so the solvent can do the heavy lifting. Then, take a clean cotton rag and wipe it completely dry. I want you to experience firsthand how incredibly simple it is to restore what you already own, rather than throwing it into a landfill and handing your money over to a corporation for a cheap replacement. Once you finish that task, I want you to come right back here to this video and leave a comment down below. Tell me exactly what you fixed. Did it work perfectly? Did it fail because the rust was simply too deep? Let me know the honest truth. We are building a genuine community of thrifty, self-reliant folks right here, and I promise you, I sit down with my cup of black coffee every single morning, and I read every single comment you leave. Your successes and your hard-learned lessons help everyone else watching this channel. If you found value in this old-fashioned wisdom today, make sure you stick around because we are just getting started. Next week, I'm going to show you how a simple homemade mixture of standard white vinegar and regular dish soap can permanently replace those highly toxic, store-bought chemical weed killers, potentially saving your family over $200 a year. You will not want to miss it. Until then, remember our golden rule, folks. Waste nothing, trust the land, and keep your hands busy. God bless your homestead, and I will see you on the next sunrise.